Again, name of my firm, Janice Jackson and Associates. Change your community. I really like that title. And of course, Georgia Shift here on today's date. Ian gave me a list of questions that you all wanted me to respond to. So I've sort of taken those questions one by one to give you a better understanding of how local government works and who does what. First question was, what does a commissioner do? And I listed some of the primary responsibilities of a commissioner. First is financial management. As you know, local governments, state governments, and federal governments forcibly collect taxes and fees from you. And in exchange for that, they provide some services. So I think financial management is the most significant part of the responsibility of a commissioner. That financial management takes on a number of different roles. One is approval of an annual budget, and we'll talk a little bit later about the budget process and how that's done. Setting rates for taxes and fees. Every year they look at the tax rate and determine if they want to leave it the same or increase it or decrease it. Bond issues. Many times there are major capital projects that local governments have to undertake, and where do they get the money from? They have to issue a bond to do that. So commissioners have to approve that process, as well as projects for inclusion in SPLOST, that special purpose local option sales tax referenda. The commission was in the midst of reviewing projects for SPLOST 8 when COVID-19 hit, so they didn't finish that. In fact, that was supposed to have been on the budget, on the ballots for November, for the November election. Now it's been pushed to March because of delays associated with the pandemic. Next major responsibility of a commissioner is selecting key personnel. Commissioners select executive staff members, which are the administrator, the clerk, the general counsel, and the compliance director. The rest of those I think are pretty self-explanatory, but the administrator runs the day-to-day operations of the government. The clerk of commission keeps the records, they keep minutes of all the meetings, advertise the agendas and so forth. The general counsel handles the legal affairs, is a chief legal officer of the organization and supervises the law department. And the compliance director handles responsibilities related to equal employment opportunities, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and small business development and utilization. Commissioners in this particular structure, the way the Augusta government was structured, they approve the hiring and firing of department directors upon the recommendation of the administrator, which is to say, if they're getting prepared to hire, you know, let's say a engineering director, the administrator makes the recommendation for which candidate should be hired, and the commission has to approve that hire. Likewise, if the administrator is recommending to terminate a department director, the commission has to ratify that decision as well. Next, they also make major approvals in regard to alcohol licenses, zoning changes, and large purchases. So any purchases in this organization, it's over $25,000, have to be approved by the commission. Next, they set policies and priorities, and this is the broadest and most wide-ranging of those responsibilities. I just listed a few examples here to give you an idea of the types of things that the commission gets involved in terms of setting policy. Let's say the employee policy manual. For instance, a few years ago, that was actually before I came to Augusta, but one of the things they did was change the holiday schedule. They added Veterans Day as a holiday. It had not previously been one. So that gives you an idea of a policy decision that was made by the commission that impacted the employees. Also, throughout creation of a stormwater utility, which is that stormwater utility charges fees for the maintenance and operations of the stormwater system. So they created that in 2016. Next, they make decisions about whether to contract for services rather than provide them in-house. A couple of good examples are fleet maintenance, you know, all those, you know, hundreds of vehicles and pieces of equipment that the city owns. The commission had to make a decision as to whether they want to run their own shop in-house or whether they want to contract with a private vendor in order to provide those services. Next, redevelopment areas. There's a designated Laney Walker Bethlehem redevelopment area. Well, how did it get to be designated? Because the commission made that decision. And then economic development incentives. I'll use this as an example. Of course, I'm not there anymore, so I'm not sure, but my guess is that with the conversation you have heard recently about a Hall of Fame, the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame coming to the Augusta, the city of Augusta, my guess is that they are asking for some types of incentives or help, or there's some reason, because if they weren't asking for it, they would be able to just purchase a piece of property, renovate it to their liking, and have the Hall of Fame there as long as it's zoned appropriately. But since it doesn't appear to be that simple or direct, that tells me that they're probably asking the city for some form of assistance or incentive. And then also another major responsibility of the commission is making final decisions regarding the purchase of property and pursuing litigation. Big question, who is my commissioner? How do I find out? So I'm going to try to get you to that website if you bear with me for a sec. Okay, finding your commissioner. It's really pretty easy. All you got to do is type in your address and it will come up. You see, typed in that address. Commissioner is William Fenoy. That house is located in District 1. And of course, there are 8 commission districts, 8 individual districts, and then you've got the 2 super districts. So this is and I noticed the super district commissioner does not come up with that, which is, I guess they couldn't configure it so it would have both. That's the District 1, and it tells you which committees he serves on. He is chair of the finance committee of the commission, and he's a member of the public services committee of the commission. So with that, you find out who represents your district. And like I said, that is right there on the Augusta, Georgia.gov website. Okay, we'll go back to the presentation. Yep, I got through that one. Woohoo, I got through it. Next, what does the mayor do is another question I was asked to respond to. Number 1, the mayor is presiding over all meetings of the commission. Second, the mayor in this government structure does not officially have a vote unless there is a 5-5 tie. Third, he signs off on, he or she, we've never had a female mayor, maybe that day will come soon, but he signs off on all contracts after being approved by the commission. Fourth, he represents the city in various settings, you know, with let's say as a spokesman, let's say with the Chamber of Commerce, various other things. If there has to be one person that's speaking for the city, it would be the mayor. And lastly, handling ceremonial functions such as groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings and things of that nature. Obviously, there are other things. Those are things that are specified. There are other things that are not maybe so clearly specified, but come along with the role of mayor. You would hope that the mayor, he or she, would be the person to bring the commission together when there are issues of concern in the community that need attention, and there may be lack of consensus on those issues. You would hope that the mayor is a person tries to bring everybody together so that there is some consensus and the city can move forward with clear direction. Next question that was posed to me is, how can I talk to the mayor and commissioners? First, want to make it clear, all of them have a city issued email address. All of them can get a city cell phone. I worded it this way because some of them historically have chosen not to use it. They may choose to use their private phone just because it's too big of a hassle to try to carry 2 phones around. That's a choice they make, but the government does make that phone available to them. I'm going to go to the contact page that's also on the website to show you exactly where you go. If you bear with me, we'll get it up. And There we are. This shows you mayor first. The mayor does have his own office with his staff there. So that contact information you see there goes directly to his office. This also tells you what term, you know, the length of his term, started in 19, ends in 22. And the Find Your Commissioner page is also located there. Then here are the commissioners. For the address I pulled up earlier, Bill Fennoy was the commissioner, so there you are with his picture. You see the name, the term, when it expired, when it started, when it expires, as well as the cell phone, fax number, and there's a link to the email there. So you see all of your commissioners are here. That's districts 1 through 8. And then we can see the super districts. Those over there are districts 9 and 10. So if you live in Augusta, you have 2 commissioners. You've got one number, districts 1 through 8. One of those people represents you, as well as the one of the people whose district is either district 9 or 10. So district 9 represents half of the county, district 10 represents half of the county. And they created those 2 positions. It's a little bit of unusual structure, but when consolidation took place, they created those positions because there was a lot of apprehension in the community about creating a consolidated government, what that meant in terms of shifts in political power related to race, quite frankly. And there were just a lot of concerns about how that was going to work. So they are not elected countywide. They're elected, though, by half of the county, which in our case is 100,000 people or more. Going back, I mentioned about the office staff of the mayor, and we showed you how it's with that office. Next, about putting the budget together and how that happens. Who really decides what is in the annual budget? That is a multi-level process. It starts around this time of the year when the department directors put together their requests, you know, what initiatives they need to carry out with their budget. They will put all of what initiatives they believe they need to carry out, what resources they believe they need to provide services adequately. They will make budget requests. The finance department collects all of that information. The administrator reviews that information and decides what he or she will include in the recommended budget and presents a recommended budget to the commissioners by the 3rd Tuesday in October of each year. That is actually written into the Code of Ordinances for the city of Augusta. That has to be presented by the 3rd Tuesday in October. The commission has roughly a month to tweak and approve that budget. Sometimes the changes they make are relatively minor, sometimes they're more significant. But they put those changes together and approve the budget typically by the 3rd Tuesday in November. Sometimes they go a little bit longer than that. But because the budget year begins on January 1, it's best to have that approved. I understand going back sometime in history that the budget may not have been approved by Christmas. And of course that makes everybody nervous. So they actually wrote some stipulations into the Code of Ordinances for themselves to make sure that they get it done in a timely fashion. Who do you talk to about making new policy? First off, my suggestion is as many of the 11 as you can. You got the 8 district commissioners, the 2 super district commissioners, and the mayor. So essentially you've got a legislative body of 11 people. And it needs 6 votes to get anything passed. So to getting your message out, why you want to do this, to as many of them as possible is always advisable. Also, you want to determine if the issue fits under any standing committee of the commission, and if so, seek out that committee chair to make sure that he or she is aware of what you're trying to do and why you want it. As you saw earlier when we were there, you could see what committees each commissioner is a member of, so it's easy to find out who is chairman of a particular committee. Next, how do you get an appointment to an advisory board or commission or authority? There are a number of commissions, authorities, and boards that the commission members appoint. I made a list of the most influential ones. The Aviation Commission essentially runs the airport. They have more authority than any of the boards and commissions that exist because they select the airport director, they approve a budget for the airport. Our airport is in a very good position financially from the standpoint that it supports itself without any subsidy from the general fund. So they are looking at those dollars and trying to figure out how entrepreneurial they can be to make sure that they can remain in good financial position. So Aviation Commission is very influential one. Coliseum Authority, I know over the last couple of years you have heard discussions about where a new Coliseum or new arena, James Brown Arena, would be located. Should it be renovated? Should you tear it down and rebuild it? Do you keep it downtown? Do you move it to the Regency Mall area? Do you move it someplace else in the city? You know, the Coliseum Authority reviews those matters and can make decisions. However, the kicker with them making expensive decisions is they still have to come to the commission in order to get the financial resources to make those things happen. But they still are extremely influential because they are influencing the discussion about locations and types of facilities and all of that. Planning Commission makes recommendations on planning, zoning, land use, also extremely important. And they make recommendations. All those recommendations come to the commission for the commission to ratify. And most of the time they'll ratify the decisions of the Planning Commission. Tax Assessors Board, basically they make the decisions about what individual properties are worth. So they actually have to be trained, even though they are appointed as volunteers, they have to be trained. They have to go through a training curriculum to pass certain tests, so they really understand the business of appraising property so that they can make appropriate decisions. That is also the highest paid of all of the boards. The folks there make, I think, about $600 a month. Economic Development Authority, Planning Commission is a lot smaller, it's maybe $150 a month. Economic Development Authority, they are actively involved in recruiting new businesses to come to the area. So they are also very influential, and they can make choices that mean an organization or a business may choose to locate here or expand here or may choose not to. So it's a very critical role. Downtown Development Authority, also downtown redevelopment, they can bring projects in for consideration. They can bring new policies in, policy ideas to enhance downtown, involved with parking or various things like that that would enhance a downtown. So there are a number of other boards, but I list those because, again, I believe there are a few of the more influential boards. You will also find that many times people who are interested in running for office at some point will come through one of these boards. And not at all unusual that, you're looking for a seat on the Planning Commission and you think the next step up is running for office. And we're gonna go look at the system you use to make it known that you are interested in serving on a board or authority or commission. Here on the Augusta's website, they ask for an online talent bank application. If you're interested, one of the first things you do is complete that application and get it to the clerk's office. Having completed that does not guarantee that you would be selected for a board, but you need to have done it in order to get appointed. So you get your name in. If there's a particular thing you're interested in, start talking to your commissioner and commissioners, plural, to let them know of your interest in serving, and that hopefully will facilitate your attempt to become one of the members of one of those organizations, one of those boards or boards, commissions, authorities. Next, what are some other ways that you can influence policy? One of the things I always tell people, there are good job opportunities in local government. I went into the career largely because I wanted to provide service to people, and it was a way to influence how things happen for the good of people and communities. So I always encourage people to consider careers in local government. Neighborhood associations, they're always out there, but they can be very influential. There are many days, and usually around specific issues like land use, for instance. One of the things you all may recall that happened not so long ago was that there's what used to be a convent over in, I believe it's the Green Meadows neighborhood off of Lumpkin Road in South Augusta. And there was a group that wanted to do a drug treatment center there, and the neighborhood association just, said, absolutely not. We don't want this in our neighborhood. So they turned out en masse at planning commission meetings and later commission meetings to let their voices be known. In addition to the fact that they call commissioners, they email commissioners. I mean, they wanted it to be clear that that was not what they wanted for their particular neighborhood. And that group, having momentum with a group of people like that certainly gets the attention of elected officials as they vote on key issues. Lastly, getting involved in political campaigns. Not everybody has the appetite for that, but it is one of those ways that people know who you are. If you all as individuals wanted to get out and, hey, I know so-and-so, she's running for office, I really want to help her by putting out yard signs, what have you, and posting their information on your social media and those sorts of things that really help them generate support for their campaigns. Politicians don't forget that. They will remember that, hey, so-and-so was a part of my effort to get elected. And that gives you immediate access to that individual when he or she is considering how she's going to vote on a particular issue. Lastly, I think that last time I'm going into the website, I want to show you how do you stay informed about what the commission is doing or has done. We're going to look at the agenda books. I'll show you where you find them. This is show you how to get to agenda books, agenda item requests, boards and commissions, they were in there as well, agendas, minutes, listing of standing committees, the talent bank form that we talked about earlier. You go into here, you have to agree because you're leaving there. But once you leave this site, and I guess it'll let me do it. Let's see if I agree there. Yeah, there you are. So you go in meeting search. This is meetings within the last 6 months. And it'll show you the commission meeting agenda. You can go over here, click on it, pull up what the agenda was, and you can list it and look at everything that they've considered during that time frame. And of course now, we used to never have to talk about having a teleconference, but given our situation with the coronavirus, that's what we're doing. So you can do 6 months worth, or you can do a custom date range, the last month, the next month. I'm not sure it goes any further back than that, but it gives you an idea, as well as you can look at all the committees, and these are the standing committees of the commission: administrative services, engineering services, finance, public safety, public service. So those are the various committees, and you can see what types of agenda items they have entertained once you go into that site. So that's how you see, and like I said, the minutes will be there as well. Minutes are sometimes pretty tedious to read. There are, number one, if you have the time to sit through a meeting, you can actually watch them. They are live streamed. You can obviously follow the news coverage. I'll be honest with you, sometimes you can read what was in the newspaper and it may hit on a few things. The newspaper or TV station, they'll hit on a few things, but it may not be everything that you really need to get a full flavor of what happened at a meeting. I used to like to say that, the government is more than what you see on the evening news, because number one, they don't have adequate time to really explain what's happening in all points of view, but also that they are just going to highlight those things that they consider to be newsworthy, but it may or may not be those things that have the greatest impact on your quality of life. So my last page here, my website, I invite you to take a look at that. just to get a feel for somebody like myself that's, loved government service and did it for a long time. Podcast, I mentioned earlier, I do have a podcast. A lot of the topics that I cover are directly related to the things that you're interested in. I mean, I established it for the purpose of building civic engagement. So I would encourage you to please go there. Please follow me there. I was trying to increase my number of followers, both on SoundCloud as well as Twitter. So please, if you would, go in and follow me on both of those. But there are a number of podcasts there that will talk about elections. I talked about getting ready for elections, talking about what characteristics you need to look for in selecting the elected officials that you want to vote for. And just talked about the environment in local government. I had today's show, in fact, since it was Wednesday, I ran today, and I talked about, who works for local government and why it's it can be a good opportunity to really improve quality of life for yourself and others in your community. So I encourage you to please listen to those. Podcasts are cool because you can kind of do it, anytime you want to. And so I invite you to Twitter. I usually post my podcast there. Please follow me there. And then I've got my email address if anybody would like to contact me later on.